senior engineer, they also solve problems.
Yeah.
Staff engineers, VP, CEO, they are solving some type of problem. Simplicity is like the number one priority. There's an illusion that, things, okay, if it's order of n complexity, it's definitely worse. I think it's extremely important that you bring clarity to what you want to do and not what others are doing. They think everything is perfect in their team or there is no other pattern because they're not looking outside. So as an engineer on your team, you're responsible for looking outside, what is happening outside the world, outside your team. Figure out some good patterns and bring it in and teach others, coach others. We become very comfortable doing it. And then we're like, okay, yaar, sab acha chal raha hai. Why take that extra responsibility? Why take that extra ownership? If you think it as, if you just compare your pay versus your work, you'll always see that your pay is less. So success is, depends on your own personal perspective. Right. Don't just tie it with title growth. Doctor ने 10 साल पढ़ाई करी है. It's really hard work, right? उसके बाद उन्होंने practice करी है. उसके बाद they become like, let's say, a surgeon. What next? Once they become a surgeon, they are doing the same kind of operation every day. Always change projects, change companies. Open up your own startup. I mean, engineering is such a space which is so vast. Be productive. Like whatever you're doing, if you're not productive, you are getting distracted, you don't have that attention span. Probably that is something you have to work on. Otherwise, after writing 5 lines of code, if you're looking at your phone and scrolling and spending 20 minutes, and then you feel like, okay, I was coding all day. Everyone struggles with time management because life happens. There are many things in life. Sometimes I don't feel like working at all.
Hello everyone, this is MsDeep Singh Shekhawat and today we have KV with us. He's working as a staff software engineer at HubSpot और उनको काफ़ी experience है engineering domain में. He has been in the engineering domain since 12 years. तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस है उनको और वही एक्सपीरियंस की जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है वो हम एक्सट्रैक्ट करने की कोशिश करेंगे. वी विल ट्राई टू गैदर ऑल दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन. मतलब ज़्यादा ज्ञान की बातें हम नहीं करेंगे. वी विल ट्राई टू एक्सट्रैक्ट द यूजफुल इन्फॉर्मेशन दैट वी हैव मेजर मिसकंसेप्शंस इन आवर माइंड, major doubts in our mind ki should I choose this career, should I go to this IT field or should I go to a software engineering field, what are the general doubts we have. We try to gather all those things और लिस्ट मैंने बना रखी है यहाँ पे सारे क्वेश्चंस की. तो सारे क्वेश्चंस हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. बिफोर दैट एक छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन सर के साथ, केवी के साथ छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन हम लेंगे और फिर हम जाएंगे अपने डिस्कशन की तरफ. तो केवी, ओवर टू यू.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, MsDeep, for having me, and I'm really excited to be here. आज का सेशन मतलब मिक्स रखेंगे, हिंदी इंग्लिश जो भी नेचुरली आएगा. I'll try to speak in that language. But yeah, thanks for having me. A bit of introduction. As you said, I started my career in 2010. As a software engineer, I started working at a company called Infosys. And I was in the financial sector, specifically insurance domain. And I worked there, and then I joined a company called Amazon. And then I moved slightly into the product-based companies. तो वहाँ से एक थोड़ा सा shift हुआ in the way I look at engineering, in the way I look at progress in career and all that. And then I worked for a few other e-commerce companies. Then I worked for Symantec, and then I thought, okay, let's explore something more. And then I started interviewing in different companies in Europe. So then that's how I landed into a company called Zalando, which is a huge fashion e-commerce company in Europe. And I joined as a software engineer. That's when I came to Berlin. I've been in Berlin since 5 years now. And after that, I moved to a company called Twilio, which was communication API for sending messages, calling, text messages, WhatsApp, you just name it. They have it all. Recently, not very recently, but let's say 1.5 years ago, I moved to a company called HubSpot, which is the CRM for SMB companies. And, so I work for a team called Messaging Infrastructure, which is, again, all about messaging, sending different types of messages, enabling our customers to send those messages at high scale in a reliable manner. And I'm a staff software engineer, as you said. And yeah, I also run a YouTube channel, not specifically YouTube channel, but it's more like a podcast. It's called The Geek Narrator. And, we started like 7 months ago. and I kind of love doing it. So yeah, excited to be here, excited to share my experience. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Or like before moving further, if you haven't like subscribed to the channel, or if you haven't looked into the channel that KV has, it's called Geek Narrator. Just take a look. It has a lot of interesting podcasts related to distributed systems, databases. जो भी आपने database के नाम सुना होंगे, they have a lot of insightful sessions podcast. तो एक बार आप देखना, you will find a lot of details. जो in depth software engineering discussions की हम बात करते हैं, you will find lot of those discussions there. So do check out. I will share the link with you in the video description, and let's move to our discussion. So our first question, KV, is around the different roles we have in the software engineering domain, right? जैसे मैंने अपना career start किया, I started my career as a support engineer, then I moved to software, then I moved to software engineer 2. As I will move to, let's say, a senior software engineer, or I move to then staff software engineer, principal software. So we keep on moving to these levels. So if I talk about like what's the basic difference between these levels, right? जैसे मैं बोलूँ कि any engineer works for 8 to 10 hours, right? तो मैं सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर हूँ, मेरे को पैसे कम मिल रहे हैं, एक में स्टाफ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है, वो ज्यादा पैसे कमा रहा है, तो ऐसा वो क्या काम करता है? What that engineer is specifically doing, what kind of work this engineer is doing, and how these levels vary. So any general idea around that?
Yeah, I mean, मैं अपने एक्सपीरियंस से शेयर कर सकता हूँ जो मैंने खुद से किया है प्लस दूसरों को देखा है करते हुए. तो डेफिनेटली आई थिंक एक जो चीज कॉमन रहती है अक्रॉस लाइक वेयर एवर यू गो, एटलीस्ट इन द टेक स्पेस, दैट इज प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग. एंड जूनियर इंजीनियर है, इंटर्न है, दे आल्सो सॉल्व प्रॉब्लम्स. सीनियर इंजीनियर है, दे आल्सो सॉल्व प्रॉब्लम्स. Staff engineers, VP, CEO, they are solving some type of problem, right? So problem solving stays the same, except the problem itself changes, right? So as a let's say intern, as a junior engineer, as a fresher, you are given a problem statement. You are probably also given, okay, this is how we imagine the solution would be, and then you have to basically code it out, but you have the responsibility of coding it in a high quality manner without bugs, following the best practices, and deliver it fast and all that. So that is your domain. You are expert in that, right? So you have the all the fluency in coding. You have really strong foundations to do that. So you have your skills there. As you grow more on the senior level, what I've seen is you're given a problem statement, but then solution is blurry. You don't have a clear picture. And then you have to figure out, okay, let me explore some solutions. So you come up with designs, you talk about trade-offs, you ask for some peer reviews, your reviews from tech leads or principal engineers and all of them. You gather feedback, you come up with a solution, you go forward, implement it, take help from your peers and your juniors, and do it in a way such that it's also for the future and not just for one task. So if you're working on a project, you also think about how I'm going to maintain it, how I'm going to observe it, what success means for this particular project. So if you see closely for the impact or the the expectations from the deliverable itself, even if it was the same project, the impact and the deliverable quality has slightly more to it, has more responsibility to it. So the way you look at it, the impact that you have, you want to take out some common things, make some reusable libraries, reusable components, such that it's not only useful for your team but also for others or for other team members, for example, right? So the way you think about it, even for the same problem, it might be a little different because you have some experience, you have made some mistakes in your career. So mistake ke baad you become more wiser. You don't jump on solutions. You try different things. You try new things and all that. When you go beyond that, most cases, okay, you know the problem, but sometimes you don't even know the problem, right? So junior level, you know the problem, you know the solution. You have to implement it in a good quality manner. Senior level, you know the problem, but you don't know the solution. Even go higher, you don't even know the problem. You have to look around, figure out what is the problem, not only for your team, but at the org level, work on strategic projects where, let's say you want to work on cost optimization. right? Okay, you are working well, your systems are working well, you're performing well, but let's say your cost is really high and you want to optimize on that. So you as a, let's say, senior staff, principal, title doesn't matter, but the impact of your work is going to be at an org level, at multiple team levels, right? So that itself changes. So you have to find your own problem while working on the known problems. So you still have the team's responsibility. You still have to, mentor junior engineers. You still have to focus on hiring and, create or keep raising the bar of hiring and, keep raising the bar of your team members, keep learning, mentor them, coach them, whatever. Depends a lot on your team setup and size of company. But still, this is general what I've seen. And so yeah, I think that's the main difference when you grow beyond your levels.
Main difference will be around the ambiguity of problem. कि
Yes.
what kind of problem you are solving. जैसे junior engineer आया तो मैंने उसको बता दिया कि भाई ये problem है, ऐसे solution है. You just have to write the code.
Right.
तो the only thing you need as a junior engineer is the way you code. मतलब जैसे आप interviews भी देखोगे तो we only focus on the मतलब DSA questions. You are given a problem statement, you have to know that I have this solution, I have to write the code. ठीक है.
Right.
And one thing is around the responsibility. मतलब कि as you grow at a higher level, you take responsibility of the overall success of the product.
Yes.
कि मैं ये प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट लेके आ रहा हूँ. जैसे कॉस्ट ऑप्टिमाइजेशन की आपने बात करी. Almost all the companies use cloud these days. So how can we make best use of the resources?
Yes.
मतलब काफी सारे सॉल्यूशंस अवेलेबल है क्लाउड के अंदर भी. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल फिगर आउट करना कि दिस इज द बेस्ट पॉसिबल चॉइस फॉर मी, राइट? कि जैसे वो सॉल्यूशनिंग वाला फेज आ जाता है कि मेरे को ये फिगर आउट करना है कि दिस इज द बेस्ट चॉइस फॉर मी. जैसे देयर इज एम्बिग्यूटी एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ ये मेरा डिजाइन स्टेटमेंट है, ये मैंने सॉल्यूशन निकाला, देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज इट, बट आई एम गोइंग विद दिस पर्टिकुलर सॉल्यूशन बिकॉज दिस इज मतलब सबसे पहले तो इट इज सॉल्विंग द प्रॉब्लम. एक बार प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहा है तो फिर मेरे को पैसे भी कम लगाने हैं इसमें.
राइट. सो you try to raise that bar. मतलब okay, एक problem को solve करने के 1000 तरीके हो सकते हैं, but there is always one better way of doing it, like in some dimension, because there is always some trade off. ये अगर cost effective है तो ये थोड़ा performance wise ज्यादा better होगा. ये अगर performance wise है, let's say, so इसका cost थोड़ा ज्यादा होगा या कम होगा. So there are some trade offs that you have to always deal with. There is no perfect solution. There is a better way of doing it, and that better is contextual. It depends on your focus, your definition of success, right? So for a startup, cost is like a huge thing. So you have to think about it from day one because you're not making enough money. For a big company, okay, you have to reach to the market as quickly as possible. Maybe it's not that cost effective. You just use plug and play all the cloud services that you have, and you just go for it because you have to reach to the market. Even if you have slightly higher cost, if you're burning some money, you can address that problem later because you have deep pockets, right? So that all depends on context. So yes, role depends on your different responsibility, the breadth of responsibility, the quality of work of course stays the same. So it grows and grows, and the impact also grows horizontally. So you no more think about one team, you think about more teams. You no more think about more teams, you think about the entire org and so on, right?
So just KV, one thing on this, one thing I always had this doubt. जैसे एक चीज आती है कि I am writing this solution. This is like, let's say this is my best time complexity solution, but this is too complex to implement. So sometimes we prefer a simple solution और कि वो simple समझने में हो. तो आई ऑलवेज फाइंड इट डिफिकल्ट टू जस्टिफाई कि यार हम हमेशा पढ़ते हैं कि यार इसका ओ एंड टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी आई शुड ऑलवेज गो विद दैट. पर अगर इसको मैं मॉड्यूलर बनाने की कोशिश करता हूँ, समटाइम्स आई टेंड टू रिपीट सम ऑफ द लॉजिक, या फिर मतलब इन जनरल सिनेरियोज. तो लाइक हाउ वी जस्टिफाई इन जनरल कि अच्छा यहाँ पे सिंप्लिसिटी इज बेटर एज वी थिंक ऑफ लार्ज स्केल. मतलब छोटे से मॉड्यूल में आप अभी सोच रहे हो तो हाँ ठीक है, ये टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी इसकी बेटर है. But as you grow, as you scale, if you look at a company level, if you look at a org level, तो simplicity matters. और वो important artifact रहता है आपका. तो उस पे मैं कैसे justify करूँ कि हाँ, मतलब मेरे को वो doubt रहता है दिमाग में.
Makes sense. ये question मुझे भी आया हुआ है, बहुत लोगों को आता है, अभी भी मुझे आता है. There's always this dilemma क्या करें, मतलब I know there's a better solution, but it might be adding complexity, right?
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways of thinking about it. One, I think you should always consider that you're working in a team, right? And whatever you code right now is going to be always used, let's say 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. और जब तुम companies छोड़ के भी जाओगे, your team members are always, changing, नए members आते हैं. So you don't know who is going to work on that, right?
Yeah.
So simplicity, so I follow this thumb rule. Simplicity is like the number one priority, because you're coding it out for also for people and not only for machines, right? So for machines, you can, write the most efficient code and all that. Second, there's an illusion that, things, okay, if it's order of n complexity, it's definitely worse, but it depends on the data size, right? If the data set size is small enough, that does not make sense. So you have to figure out what is the impact of this performance degradation. If the impact is huge, let's say your service response time is 150 milliseconds and you can make it better by 50 milliseconds, let's say. So 100 milliseconds, you can get it. But let's say on the cost of avoiding, removing simplicity with some edge cases, with some risks that you may have, but you can still optimize it. So you have to figure out, is 150 milliseconds good enough to trade off simplicity, or it's not worth it, right? So it depends on what kind of application you're working on. If you're working on a simple CRUD application, whatever performance you get is probably good enough, right? And good enough is the way to go. You don't want the best performance by trading off simplicity. Try for good enough. That's a great start. You can always iterate, right? There's always a simpler way of doing it. So in my career, I have got this feedback multiple times that I over-engineer sometimes. So I have made this thumb rule. If I am looking at a problem, I find a solution that is not simple enough, I have to take a step back. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So get away from that illusion that you're okay. On the cost of simplicity, you're trying to add more performance, reduce the latency and whatnot. But that sometimes is just an illusion. It's not like a real customer impact. So try to tie it back to the customer impact on whatever problem you're solving, right? So if you're just putting a lot of effort just to get a few milliseconds here and there, save a few CPU cycles, while the customer will not even notice, it's a waste of time. But for high performance application, let's say you're writing a distributed system, right, where few milliseconds are even, very critical, then of course you have to do that. So I would say 90% of the applications that we work for, we use ready-made built-in tools, third-party APIs. We don't have to worry a lot when it comes to, training of simplicity. So never trade off simplicity is the thumb rule that I follow. Always go for simplicity, because even if you code it out, if you look at it after a month, even you won't understand, what is this doing, right? So how can you expect your team members to work on it? And if your team members cannot work on it, cannot understand after a while, it's of no use. It's just working. Okay, let's not touch it because I'm too hesitant to break something because it's so complex to understand. So that's my thumb rule I always use.
Thanks. ये डाउट रहता है मेरे हमेशा
ये रहेगा, ये हमेशा रहने वाला है, because it depends on the problem. If you're working on the same problem again and again, you will get, this is the way to do it. But if you work on new problems, that problem will always be there. But following some thumb rules like these, I think at least it has helped me that, simplicity is the top priority no matter what.
ठीक है sir. Let's move to the second question. This is again in general question and kind of a misconception or maybe a doubt this I have in my mind. So multiple people move to leadership from engineering domain. जैसे कि let's say कि मैं senior software engineer बन गया अभी. I tried thinking in a direction that should I progress in this current domain only, like should I try for staff or principal roles, or should I switch to leadership? दिमाग में एक डाउट रहता है कि हाउ इज द करियर ग्रोथ मूविंग फॉरवर्ड. तो यू हैव दिस एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ लाइक यू started from software engineer and right now you are working as a staff software engineer. So you might, do you also, first of all, like do you also get these kind of thoughts that कि staff software engineer बन गया, अभी चलो leadership में try करते हैं हम. तो एक तो होता है कि I have to try something new, right? कि आई हैव इंटरेस्ट इन समथिंग न्यू, कि इंजीनियरिंग काफ़ी हो गया, अभी कुछ लीडरशिप रोल्स एक्सप्लोर करते हैं. जैसे मतलब आपने शुरू में बोला कि एवरीवन इज ट्राइंग टू सॉल्व अ प्रॉब्लम, इट्स द वे हाउ पीपल आर सॉल्विंग इट. इंजीनियरिंग का कुछ अलग हो सकता है, लीडरशिप का कुछ अलग हो सकता है. सो हाउ शुड वन थिंक अबाउट इट? जैसे आप एक कॉलेज के स्टूडेंट के बारे में सोचो, उसके दिमाग में ये डाउट रहता है कि यार आईटी के अंदर आप एक बार इंजीनियर बन जाते हो, वंस यू आर सीनियर सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर यू हैव टू मूव टू मैनेजमेंट और लीडरशिप. तो हाउ ट्रू इज दैट? लाइक एनी ऑफ योर एक्सपीरियंसेस अराउंड इट?
Right. That's a very common question. That is a combination of misconception, misunderstanding, lack of clarity, and all that. So first of all, I think it's extremely important that you bring clarity to what you want to do and not what others are doing. So अगर ये डिफरेंस समझ में आ गया कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोई बंदा डायरेक्टर है बट वो मेरे बैच से पास आउट है, राइट? सो आई डोंट वांट टू कंपेयर दैट. आई मीन आई एम एन इंजीनियर वर्किंग ऑन डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम्स, ही इज अ डायरेक्टर एट अ डिफरेंट कंपनी. हाउ आर यू इवन कंपेयरिंग, राइट? इट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस. बट it's just a narrow way of looking at things. So I think first step is to understand what you really want to do, right? You don't want to just follow someone and be in a position where you are not great fit for. So for example, you become a manager but you are not good at context switching. Context switching is the basic thing that managers require. They need to excel at it, right? Because they have to manage so many different things. They want to jump on a one-on-one. They want to follow a post-mortem item and all that. Achha. They want to also look at their metrics. They also can be on call on ongoing issues. There are so many things. So if you're not good at context switching, probably it's not a good thing for you, right? Again, it depends a lot on the company, the team, and whatnot. But talking in a broader manner, in a general manner, I think that makes sense. So bring clarity to yourself. There's no train that you will miss or something. Yeah. Follow your path and bring clarity to yourself. Do you want to solve interesting engineering problems? When I say solve, not only on paper but actually code it out. If you want to do that, IC is the way to go, right? Now the second thing is, when we say IC versus leadership, and I was actually just commenting on a LinkedIn post just before our recording, it was similar IC versus leadership. I don't understand this IC versus leadership comparison because leadership is broad, right? Leadership, people usually take leadership as people management, which is completely different. Leadership can be of multiple types. There can be technical leadership, there can be team leadership, there can be people management, and these are different ideas. A person can be good at team management but not at people management, right? So what do I mean? Team management means how is the team's health looking, how fast they are able to deliver the features, what is their on-call noise look like, how safe people feel in the team about making any change, how is the vision looking like for their team, for their project, for their system, right? People manager is something different. People management is about, if I am your manager, I'll talk to you about your personal aspirations, about your growth in the company, your vision, where do you see yourself, let's say in 1 year down the line. What can I do to help you to reach the next level? And let's say if you say me, you tell me that, I don't have clarity. So I am responsible as a manager to help you out, figure that out, right? I can put you on a project where you can become a tech lead. I can put you on a project where you can become like a people manager, for example. So it's my responsibility. So that is a different thing. That's more like a personal domain. And that needs expertise. That needs, empathy for your employees. That needs great communication skills. You have to always be, diplomatic. Choice of words is really important because you are talking to real people about their aspiration, about their career. Right? You're not talking about systems and, software and all that. So that is a separate expertise. When it comes to IC is about doing what you want to do, working on your project task independently, and without being a blocker, without needing someone else's help, that again maintaining a good quality. So ये सब IC में आ रहा है. But there is again a leadership in IC. You want to lead the technical expertise of your team. You want to review the code and the systems that your team is building and make sure you raise the bar, right? You have to lead the knowledge sharing way. Like if let's say कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है, एक टीम में काम कर रहे हैं, 3 लोग हैं, 5 साल से एक ही टीम में काम कर रहे हैं, so they think everything is perfect in their team or there is no other pattern because they are not looking outside. So as an engineer on your team, you are responsible for looking outside, what is happening outside the world, outside your team, figure out some good patterns and bring it in and teach others, coach others, right? So that is again a part of leadership. So I don't understand this broad comparison, IC versus leadership. Yes, the way it is designed in some companies that as an IC, as a software engineer 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatnot, you're not expected to, work on leadership. You're just expected to finish your task. But that's the way it is designed. You don't have to be that way. You can always choose as a software engineer too. I want to work on my task, but I want to grow my technical expertise. So what else I can do, right? You can always take initiatives. You can always own more things. No one is stopping you. It's just that software engineer 2s or whatever role you are in, we become very comfortable doing it. And then we are like, okay, yaar, sab acha chal raha hai. Why take that extra responsibility? Why take that extra ownership? If you think it as, if you just compare your pay versus your work, you'll always see that your pay is less. But if you see that it as an opportunity, of course, I'm not saying that work more for less pay. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that looking at work and extra responsibility in a way such that you want to learn something new, I think that will really change the way you look at things and, the way you grow. So talking about, like, coming back to your question that लोग ऐसा करते हैं और engineering में there is a limit, okay, इसके बाद क्या? So I think it's a narrow way of looking at it. जैसे, first of all, there are different types of growth. One is salary growth, which is independent of, where you go. I've known, engineers on IC levels. They are really senior, like 30 years of experience. They are still IC. Okay. And they might be earning a lot of money. I don't know for real, but they are in this, role for a reason. Okay. The reason could be money. The reason could be the challenging projects they work on. The reason could be, the new things that they are learning. The reason could be they have ownership of their time because they don't have to people manage. They don't have to manage a team and all that. So success is, depends on your own personal perspective. Right. Don't just tie it with title growth. Let's say if you're a principal engineer, then you want to become a senior principal engineer, even if that's like a terminal role. If you become a senior principal engineer, you want to become like a distinguished engineer or something. You'll always have more ambition. But think about it from a growth perspective, from personal growth perspective. Are you really happy about what you're doing? If you're happy, to give you an example, there is like a senior engineer, there is like a staff engineer. I've seen many people rejecting to go on a staff level. They just say, I'm happy with what I'm doing. Okay. Right. And because salary is something, so after a level, your base pay does not increase. The more, the part that increases is the stocks that you get. And company can give you stock if they really think you are a great engineer. Okay. So that is a slightly different thing. So I would say bring clarity. Leadership is always going to be there no matter what you do. Focus on personal growth rather than the title, right? You can become a director, but still not grow in your career because you're not working on any interesting project. You can be a software engineer too, but work on really great projects like, no one is working on, and you can really have the experience of SD3 or principal engineer. Okay. Right. So that's the point. I don't know if that answers your question. I might have,
It does answers my question. Like, मतलब जो mainly doubt था ना, जिस leadership anyway, जैसे आप staff software engineer हो, So anyway, leadership has to be in picture around that, because there will be multiple junior engineers that will be working with you. You
Absolutely.
can't you can't be the only person who is working on the project from let's say requirement gathering from scratch part and then completely coding it out and then launching it into production. So you definitely
Absolutely.
need help with the engineers. So
Yes.
I think that is the one management, or you can say that you probably have to keep the team motivated, that
Yes.
yeah, we are working on this and then we have to launch this to the production particularly maybe to this date.
Absolutely.
Okay.
इसमें एक एग्जांपल
okay.
देता हूँ मैं, just to bring
अच्छा.
more clarity. So let's say you are a team, you are a senior engineer, and then someone new joins your team, right? Let's say he or she is a junior engineer right from college, and now you're working on really complicated systems, and you be on call, your team members be on call, but that person is not comfortable being on call yet. Let's say they
Okay.
are in the team for 6 months, they have learned a lot, but still they don't feel comfortable. So as a senior engineer, it's your responsibility to make them feel comfortable that, okay, you can do this. And that is leadership.
Okay.
You can help them onboard the on-call process. You can be like a on-call person for them, along with them. So they can be on-call in business hours.
Yeah.
Even if they are on-call in the night, give them this feeling that you can always escalate this issue to me because I am there. You go for it. These are the steps you can do to, resolve an issue. And no problem, you will learn. So bringing this psychological safety, that this is like pushing people to grow further in their career, and this is leadership. It is not somewhere in the title. You're just a software engineer too, for example, but still you should have that in your mind.
तो अपना जो next question it is actually related to this only, that we in general get this thinking process that after a certain age, let's say 40 or 45 years of age, the career in IT is like kind of stagnant. You will not grow further, या फिर आपको retire होना ही पड़ेगा because the freshers will take over, या फिर जो भी कुछ भी चल रहा है. But if I compare it with other professions, जैसे डॉक्टर हो गया और like let's say अपनी सरकारी नौकरी हो गई, तो this is the one thing कि मैं corporate में जा रहा हूँ, IT sector में जा रहा हूँ. How does my career look after around let's say 40 years? जैसे मेरे को भी कई बार LinkedIn पे मैसेजेस आते हैं, तो मेरे को एक्चुअली में आंसर नहीं पता, पर मेरा थिंकिंग प्रोसेस यही रहता है कि एज फार एज यू आर सॉल्विंग प्रॉब्लम्स यू आर गुड. तो मेरा जनरल थिंकिंग प्रोसेस वही रहता है. बट यू हैव मोर एक्सपीरियंस, लाइक यू हैव 12 years of industry experience. तो व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स ऑन इट?
जो तुमने बोला, that is absolutely correct, right? For example, first of all, it's totally fine if you be a senior engineer and stay a senior engineer for 30 more years. It's totally fine, right? There is no problem with you. As far as you're solving interesting problems, you're not getting, obsolete in terms of your knowledge. You're always learning new things. You're working on interesting projects. You're not there just sitting and, occupying a position, but not having any impact. So as far as these conditions are fine, I think there's no problem you becoming like a senior engineer and staying there for like, for your life.
Okay.
I've seen many engineers, they have been VPs, they have been directors, but they're tired of being at that level. They just want to focus on one team, write code. They step down, they join some other position. Of course, step down in terms of title, not salary, let's say, because salary is a different part, right? It's totally subjective. After a certain years of experience. So there are examples like that. So don't believe that. I don't believe that if someone becomes a principal engineer, if that is the terminal, growth has stopped. No. Funny that you took example of doctor. So doctor क्या है, right? Doctor ने 10 साल पढ़ाई करी है, like really hard work, right? उसके बाद उन्होंने practice करी है, उसके बाद they become like, let's say, a surgeon. What next? Once they become a surgeon, they are doing the same kind of operation every day.
Yeah.
Right? And you still say that, okay, they are growing in their career. How? They are doing the same kind of operation, right? Think about it in the same way. If they think, okay, अब मैं retire हो गया हूँ, कुछ नया करना है यार. अभी तक मैं सर का डॉक्टर था, अब मैं पैर का डॉक्टर हो जाऊंगा. That doesn't make any sense, right? You're still growing. The thrill of doing that operation stays the same, because the impact, or the intensity of the disease depends how your complexity would be.
Yeah.
So similarly, interesting problems, challenging problems, if you work on those projects, I think you will always feel that, okay, you have something new. So, you won't feel that, okay, I'm done, I'm getting bored of it. If you're getting bored, always change projects, change companies, open up your own startup. I mean, engineering is such a space which is so vast, right? I don't trust that anyone who says there's nothing more interesting to do. There's always something more interesting. There's 100 ways of solving the problem, right? So if someone would have said that, okay, now Oracle database is there, everything works, I'm going to retire because there is this perfect database out there. Think about it. Now Oracle is kind of obsolete. Like, no one uses it. Like, there are open source technologies, there are distributed systems. So there's always new things that are coming up. So never think that after a while, even let's talk about the managerial roles. If you become a VP, you stay there, you feel good. Okay, I'm now a VP of engineering, right? You stay there for 3 years, 10 years. What about that? That is also like a limit, right? You cannot just become a CEO one day, right? I mean, you can, depends on the company, but not everyone is Sundar Pichai.
Right.
So you have to think about it. Don't compare it in only one dimension. Salary is one thing. You are, totally free to earn as much as you can, but don't only run after that. Don't run only after the titles, because there is more to it. So yeah, I don't believe that's a real problem, and you can totally be at one position for 30 years. Similarly, government job का भी example ले लेते हैं. You work in a bank, right? You become a senior manager. You work there for 10 years. You get more, you become comfortable, but you're not solving new problems. There's always someone complaining about your bank, how slow is your bank, how they lost money and all that. So these are the same problem. You're not solving anything new. So I'm actually like, engineering is way, way, way more interesting. So.
Okay. ठीक है. Yeah, like you took some kind of very interesting examples. इसमें जो आपने अभी बताया कि people tend to switch to kind of software engineer role after they like worked on VP or like higher positions.
Yes.
This example I actually saw one person who was VP in Google Chrome. He joined the browser company. The name of the company is the browser company, as a software engineer. I actually saw his title on the LinkedIn. So yeah. Okay.
Definitely. I've also seen a person who was working in a bank, by the way, since you took an example of a bank. He was in Germany. He had like 15 years of banking experience. He was really doing well. Right?
Okay.
And then he suddenly said, okay, I'm bored of banking. Let me learn software engineering. Let me learn.
Okay.
Mind you, he did not have a single experience or single line of coding experience. So he learned programming. He learned Java. He became a Java developer. He started his freelancing, and he was working as a senior software engineer, and he was like 55 years of age.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've worked with him, and he was no less than any experienced software engineer, because he had all that experience of, domain knowledge. He had a lot of communication skill. He had leadership because he was leading some teams for 15 years. So that definitely helps.
So the takeaway of this question is that engineering has no bounds.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, if something, engineering would be the last thing to have any type of limit, because like new things are coming up every day, and it's just that you have to get out of that bubble and talk to more people, and you will feel how little you know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, to our next question. So we see like a lot of posts from multiple people on LinkedIn or like any of the social medias that you should focus on becoming a better engineer, right? You should not focus on just preparing for interviews. You should focus on becoming a better engineer. एक तो जैसे doubt रहता है कि भाई better engineer कौन है? कि if I ask you that am I a better engineer? And this is the like general doubt. And people most generally post that try to become a 10x engineer or try to become a 100x engineer. ठीक है, these kind of मतलब heavy words we see, but like how do I distinguish, or like let's say how should I go about it in becoming a better engineer and not just a person who is cracking the interviews and doing his job?
I don't believe 10x, 100x, 1000x, right? Like, I mean, that depends on what
Okay.
you're multiplying it with. Even if you multiply 100 by 0, that is going to be 0. So it doesn't help. So better engineer is again very subjective. It has nuance to it. Better, of course, I won't be comparing myself with someone else who has, you know, different years of experience, different work experience, different domain, you know, different way of working, different financial, economical, whatever situation, right? So that is not going to help me. So I think the better engineer terms, it comes from comparing yourself with your past, right?
Okay.
And that's the idea that I follow. To give you an example, right? So better engineer, I cannot say you're a better engineer because I'm not comparing you to someone else.
Okay.
I can say you're a good engineer depending on your experience, the projects you have worked on. But better means you're comparing something, right? Like there's the other entity. So I don't want to compare you. I can say you're a good engineer, you're working for a good company. I trust that. So when I talk about myself, if I want to become a better engineer, I'm comparing it with myself. To give you an example, let's say I work on a project, I deliver it in, you know, estimated time. Let's say 2 months was the estimation. I took like 2.5 months, but it's all good. It's delivered. It has a good customer impact. But then it had some problems. So after it was deployed, there were a couple of customer incidents and all that.
Okay.
How can I be better next time? Right. First thing is take feedback. What could you have done better so that there was no customer impact? Right? We always do a post-mortem or, you know, a correction of error in Amazon terms. Right. So there's always a way of, you know, retrospecting. Okay, what could have we done better? That's the way of looking at it, right? So you get better in terms of your productivity. So let's say you do a task in 10 days. If you get the similar task, you will do it in 5 days, for example. I mean, if 5 days is not the lower bound. If something takes 5 days, it will take 5 days, no matter how better you get it. If it's like a monkey work of writing code, the number of bugs can be reduced. So that is a other way of having or calling it a better engineer. So are you a better engineer if you are causing less number of bugs? If you are raising the bar of your, you know, writing code and, you know, the test coverage and all that. So better engineer is really vast term, and maybe you're getting better at mentoring others. That is again, because as an engineer, you want to mentor others. You want to be better at time management, because as an engineer, you want to be better at time management because you don't want to be wasting a lot of time context switching, right? As an engineer, you want to become better at, writing tests for automating your infrastructure and making your systems better in terms of observability and all that. So there's more to it. It's more nuanced. So yeah, short answer, I don't believe in 10x, 100x. I just believe in making small incremental progress while looking back at your work, at your deliverables, and see how you can, you know, improve the next time you work on similar problem.
Okay, just related to this discussion only, that we generally say around this better engineer only, that just focus on your improving your skills, like what you are learning. जैसे आप पहले tutorials पढ़ रहे थे, अभी आप books पढ़ना start कर दो. Try to read the white papers. या फिर जो different technologies है, आप probably you might be working in the database technologies. Try to read some other technologies which other people are working on. तो एक general idea हमें देखने को मिलता है कि स्किल्स पे काम करो एंड अदर थिंग्स विल फॉलो. कि जैसे कि वो बोलते हैं कि स्किल्स पे काम करो, पैसा अपने आप आएगा. तो इसके अंदर मतलब द टेक अवे विड बी दैट you have to focus on your skills, that I'm working on this thing. How can I optimize it? The lot of examples you took, like this is the problem I faced last time. So what is the proper process I can follow? जैसे मैंने अगर आपकी पोस्ट में पढ़ा था या फिर आई डोंट नो वेयर आई रेड इट वाज अराउंड कि डोंट ब्लेम ए पर्सन, ब्लेम द प्रोसेस. if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
तो अच्छा हाँ
ये शायद मैंने डाला था.
अच्छा I read it somewhere probably on LinkedIn or somewhere, but it was nice thing to read, like कि आप किसी के ऊपर ये ब्लेम नहीं डाल सकते कि तूने कुछ गड़बड़ करी थी इसलिए सब कुछ खराब हो गया.
Right.
You take the responsibility as a team and then you try to improve the process. Like let's say एक bug आ गया तो what were the steps taken to test out the system which you are launching, या फिर क्या stages आपने सेटअप करी थी, इंटीग्रेशन टेस्ट वगैरह, या फिर काइंड ऑफ जो भी आपने मैकेनिज्म सेटअप करे थे उनको आप कैसे इम्प्रूव कर सकते हो. ओके
तो या मतलब कोर क्वेश्चन वाज कि स्किल पे ध्यान दो और पैसा अपने आप आएगा एंड ऑल दैट, राइट? So yeah, for the second part, blaming a person does not help. It's actually a bad culture, and so people learn from you. So let's say there was an incident, you start blaming. As a senior engineer, if I blame a junior engineer that, oh, you did this change, what were you thinking and all that,
yeah,
someone else will follow me, and that slowly will become a culture, right? That's becomes a toxic company culture. We don't want that. So never blame a person. Never blame anyone. Basically, just figure out the gaps that you had. It is most likely a process problem. It's most likely you don't have enough safety nets. Someone just deleting randomly a table on production, right? It can be a human error. It happens. It happens with like biggest of the companies. But blaming that person is not going to help you. There was a process problem. There was lack of safety nets that someone can just go and delete the table. It's a big thing, right? It's a process problem. So I don't trust that it's a single person's responsibility. It's always the team's responsibility. When it comes to the team, it always the org's responsibility. And that's why we have managers. That's why we have folks who are looking at this from a high level.
Yeah.
Coming back to your first question, which was focusing on skills rather than interviewing, there is again nuance to it. So if you're actively interviewing, I would say prepare for interviews, right? Because every company will have, different interview style. They might have some, common questions they ask and all that. So it's totally fine if you prepare for interview. Of course, you have to do it, but only if you're actively interviewing. Some folks never get out of that interview mode. Even if they are working at a very great company, they are solving some great problems, but they're always focusing on interviewing and, how can you do better? Just interviewing other people and all that. That's a very narrow and, shallow way of looking at it, because engineering is about solving problems at the core of it. So as far as you're working on problem solving skills at any level, be it system design, be it coding, be it, DevOps type work and all that, be it SRE. So yes, focus on your skills and relevant skills, right? Don't just do random things that, oh, I do this certification. On paper, I am certified some developer, but I don't know anything on ground. So I cannot write a single line of code. That's not going to make any sense. So getting better in your relevant skills, being always curious, always have this mindset of, you don't know enough, because there is more to it, and dig deep into it. Don't just scratch the surface. And I think that's the way of looking at it, I would say.
I was saying that you are quoting the leadership principles of Amazon: learn and be curious, and then dive deep.
Yeah. I mean, it has a strong impact on my mindset, to be honest. I mean, Amazon is a great company. Amazon was a great company, and they have some strong leaders out there. They have some strong engineers out there. And of course, that's the reason they are able to, build such great products. So, of course, I mean, there are so many companies like Twilio, had a great impact on my thinking, on my mindset. HubSpot is having a great impact on my personal growth, on the company culture, on hiring practices and all that. So I'm really lucky to be part of those, and understanding those company culture and company values. And more importantly, it's not just about listing down. It's not a enum in Java that you just have like a set of enum, but you have to live, you have to be an example of that property.
Definitely. Moving to our last question. So it's around like keeping a balance between what we do. So as a software engineer, let's take your example that you run a Geek Narrator channel, a YouTube channel. You have to spend some time on that. Then you have to contribute time in your daily work, your job. Then you also have to find some time to spend time with your family. और ऐसा भी कई बार ऐसे मन कर गया कि यार ब्रेक लेना है मेरे को सबसे, आई हैव टू गो आउट ऐसे. तो हाउ डू यू लाइक मैनेज ऑल दोज थिंग्स? हाउ अ पर्सन, जैसे मेरे को भी कई बार डिफिकल्ट होता है मैनेजिंग लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, जैसे यूट्यूब पे वीडियोस डालने हैं, खुद का ऑफिस का काम भी करना है, देन यू हैव टू स्पेंड टाइम विथ योर फैमिली, तो लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. तो हाउ यू गो अबाउट इट?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं तो यही कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जैसा दिखता है वैसा जरूरी नहीं होता है, राइट? सो देयर इज नॉट लाइक ओके मैं हमेशा अच्छे से टाइम मैनेज कर रहा हूँ और मैं मतलब सीख गया हूँ, मेरे पास वो मंत्र आ गया है जिससे मैं टाइम मैनेज कर लेता हूँ. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. एवरीवन इज स्ट्रगलिंग मैनेजिंग टाइम, बट okay, you get better at it because if you put dedicated efforts towards it, you get better at it. I have got better at it for sure, right? I wasn't this good, let's say 2 years ago. So the idea is to getting better at time management, but no one is perfect. I also get some weeks where I have so much work pressure that I can't do anything, right? So that's why I think looking at someone is a different thing and implementing it on your own is a different thing because both lives are different. Okay. The things that help me is, first of all, which no one does really, is measuring your time. So compare it with measuring as in where you're putting your time, right? Okay. Yeah, like have the note of it, right? For example, if you say, oh, my service latency is 2 seconds, but it needs to be 100 milliseconds. Okay. I asked this question, okay, where your service is spending most time, but you don't know. How are you going to solve the problem? It's the same thing. Okay. I spend like 12 hours at work. I don't have any time. Okay, where are you spending the time? Can you optimize it? You don't know the question because you don't measure it. You don't see that, okay, this is a waste of time. This is not adding any value. If you want to do really productive, first is to start measuring your time, start knowing where I am putting my time. If you are scrolling unlimited Instagram reels or TikTok videos for let's say 2 hours and then complaining that I don't have time, probably it's not fair, right? It's you have time, you're just spending it somewhere else. So if that is not a problem, start measuring it, then cut down on things that you don't think add value to your career, your growth, whatever. Combine things. So piggybacking is a great technique we use in engineering, right? So we let's say you're traveling for 1 hour to the office. You don't have a choice because you live far away. You take a cab drive or something, you go to the airport. So there is so many occasions where you're doing nothing, but you're just stuck somewhere, you're stuck in the traffic. Can you use that time? So piggyback that time with, let's say, something useful. You can read a book, you can listen to my podcast or somewhere else. That's a shameless plug, but whatever podcast you want to listen to, you can do number of different things, right? So first step is to measure your time, understand where you are spending your time. Second thing is to use these gaps where you have some time, you're just doing some mundane task, you're just washing your clothes, you're just arranging your cupboard or something like that. Try to add more things. That will improve your passive learning, that you're doing something but you're learning something new. Third is definitely pre-plan. If you want to do something, don't plan at the very end. Pre-plan things. So let's say if I want to do a podcast with someone, I have to start planning now if I want to do a podcast in Feb or in March, right? Otherwise, if I do start planning in Feb, it depends what kind of podcast it is. If it's like general talking and all that, is fine. But if it's deep technical deep dive, I have to plan accordingly. I have to plan in advance, right? So pre-planning helps a lot. And then be productive. Like whatever you're doing, if you're not productive, you're getting distracted, you don't have that attention span, probably that is something you have to work on. Otherwise, after writing 5 lines of code, if you're looking at your phone and scrolling and spending 20 minutes, and then you feel like, okay, I was coding all day, but you were not. Right? You were just getting distracted. So these are some techniques people can use to be more better at time management. But I must say, everyone struggles with time management because life happens. There are new things in life. Sometimes I don't feel like working at all. Sometimes I don't feel like podcasting at all. That's okay. But it's like the above average number of times what you do is what matters. So, and consistently, do this consistently, not just you do it for 1 week and then you just forget about everything the next week. That is not going to help. Consistently put more efforts, and slowly you will see the benefits of it.
So takeaway is that we have to do a retrospective on what we are doing basically.
Absolutely.
If you say the example which you took is kind of very nice around the service latency.
Right.
कि अगर मेरे को कम करनी है latency, then we look for optimizations.
Right.
Caching solution use कर लो या फिर अपनी algorithm को improve करो या फिर all those things. So similar principles we have to apply in our own life.
Absolutely. Software engineering and life is closely related. I keep on posting some analogies there. Yeah. I think it definitely helps. So
KV, that's all from me. A kind of very, I will say, very detailed and nice discussion. We tried to gather the misconceptions and doubt, and I believe it will definitely help the audience. And if you haven't already checked KV's channel, the podcast, Geek Narrated Podcast, एक बार देख लेना, अच्छा लगेगा. मेरे को काफी अच्छा लगा था. You will learn about lot of things. अगर आप अभी कॉलेज में भी हो तब भी आप अगर पढ़ोगे या फिर आप बस को सुनना है, बस उसको दिमाग भी नहीं लगा पा रहे हो, बस सुनना है, you will try to अपने आप दिमाग में चीजें आएंगी कि अच्छा हाँ ऐसे भी होता है. तो do check out that. I will share the link with you in the video description. और हम मिलेंगे अपने नेक्स्ट वीडियो में. तब तक के लिए स्टे सेफ. टाटा, बाय बाय.